Hi friends, in this video we are going to study about risk mitigation and various strategies. We have studied about how risk is to be identified, analyzed, and now once you know about how significant the risks are, one must know how to evaluate, mitigate, and further monitor those risks so that it does not become a threat to the project. The first step to summarize was risk identification, which defines the potential risk that may negatively influence a project. Next is risk analysis, that is, calculating the probability of risk and understanding its influence on the company objectives. Next step was risk assessment and evaluation, that is, making decision whether the risk is acceptable and whether the company is based on its risk appetite. Fourth is risk mitigation that we are going to discuss now, that is to develop a plan to alleviate the identified risk, that is to solve, treat the risk. And last is to monitor the risk continuously and track any new risk coming up during the project. Definitions of risk probability and impacts. Risk probability means the likelihood each risk will occur, and risk impact looks at potential effect on schedule, budget, quality, or performance. Probability is a percentage, while risk impact can either be a score or percentage depending upon an expert's judgment of its impact. PMBOK suggests the following scale of probability and impact with respect to its implications on time and cost. If the probability of the occurrence of a particular risk is less than 1%, there will be no change in time or cost, then the scale is nil. That is, it is not a risk. If the probability is between 1 to 10%, the time delay in the schedule will be about 1 week, and cost impact is less than $100,000. It is said to be having a minor impact or a very low risk. On a medium scale, when the probability of occurrence is between 31% to 50%, the impact of time can be as much as 3 months and can affect up to $1 million. It is still classified as a medium risk and will impact the key functional areas of the project or company. For a high risk, up to 70% impact and time implication of 6 months and a loss of over $5 million is anticipated. And further, more than 70% probability of occurrence and loss of time more than 6 months or cost implication more than $5 million is said to have a very significant impact on overall functionality of the project, its health, and the viability. Therefore, the scale is very high. These probability and impacts, either positive or negative, that is, threats or opportunities, can be mapped in this matrix format, which we have seen earlier. Different colors like green, yellow, red will impact the scale. Green here shows very low risk. The orange portion will show medium risk, while the red portion will show high to very high risk. It is clearly shown that the probability is marked on the Y scale, while the impact is mapped in the X scale. These numbers or the scales can be tailor made for every project depending upon the requirements. This matrix, once prepared, the risk can be easily visualized, that where and in which category do they lie, and according to the understanding of the management, Different risk mitigation strategies can then be decided upon. Generally, risks are taken on when strategies can be designed to reduce the risk level to as low as reasonably practicable. That is, try to bring the risk from the red zone to the orange zone and from the orange zone to the green zone. This can be done by trying to balance those risks by certain treatments and associated hazards, that is, the implication on the time or cost, can be suitably eliminated. Either reduce the probability or reduce the impact. Hence, the best mitigation strategy may lower the risk probability, the severity of outcome, or reduce the company's exposure to the whole risk. More than one mitigation strategy can also be employed to attain optimal results. Thus, the objective of risk management strategies are to remove any potential impact as far as possible. The four types of risk mitigating strategies include risk avoidance or to avoid. That is, in general, risks should be avoided that involve a high probability impact for both financial loss and damage. If a particular risk is seen where you cannot apply any treatment method and it will cause huge losses, both in terms of time and cost, it is best to avoid that risk. And if there are many number of such risks, you must avoid the project. Transferring the risk. Risks that have a lower probability of occurring but would have a large financial impact on the project, it can either be transferred or shared between number of parties. That is, by purchasing an insurance, you tend to transfer the risk. Accepting the risk. With some risk, the expenses involved in mitigating the risk is more than the cost of tolerating the risk itself. In this situation, it is best that such kind of risk should be accepted and it must be carefully monitored. Next is reduction or risk prevention. The most common mitigation strategy is the risk limitation. The business can take some type of actions to address a perceived risk and regulate their exposure to it. The risk limitation usually employs some risk acceptance and some risk avoidance. We can understand all the four risk mitigation strategies by plotting them against likelihood and impact to understand which is best suited. If the likelihood of the risk is high as well as the impact will be causing severe losses, we must best avoid the risk. Therefore, use the risk avoidance strategy. Vice versa, if the likelihood is very low, it will cause less severe damage. You can simply retain or accept the risk. If the frequency is high of occurrence and will cause less severe losses, we may try to reduce the risk. When we see that the likelihood of occurrence is low but will cause very severe losses like fire, the likelihood that a fire will occur in a construction site is though low, but if it is there, it will severely damage the construction, the materials, human life, etc. Hence, one must try to transfer such kind of risk by taking various insurances for the project. Each of these mitigation strategies are again explained in brief. Risk avoidance strategy is designed to deflect as many threats as possible in order to avoid the costly and disruptive consequences of a damaging event. Risk reduction is the reduce in the amount of effect certain risks can have on the company processes by adjusting certain aspects of an overall project plan, project processes, or by reducing its scope. Risk sharing is consequence of a risk being shared or distributed among several of the project's participants or a third party, a vendor or business partner. When using risk sharing technique, a contractor further will appoint subcontractors or several other subcontractors in order to transfer any kind of risk. Risk retaining is done to deal with any potential fallout since a project's anticipated profit is greater than the cost of its potential risk. Therefore, it is best to take some risk also. Thank you.